video, I'm going to show you how to simply and easily solve a Rubik's Cube. This is a beginner tutorial, so you don't need to know anything about Rubik's Cubes to follow this. If you just got your first cube and next thing you knew it was accidentally scrambled, don't worry, I got you. Throughout this tutorial, I will show you algorithms, which are just pre-made sets of moves that will rearrange the pieces in certain ways. Memorizing these algorithms can be very daunting, but I promise you it's not as bad as it seems, and at the end of this video, I'm going to go over ways that will help you memorize them. These algorithms are written in a specific notation where each letter corresponds to a side of the cube. So if there's a prime symbol after the letter, you'll move that side one turn counterclockwise. If there's a 2 after the letter, move that side 180 degrees or 2 turns. And now if there's nothing after the letter, just move that side one turn clockwise. R corresponds to the right side, so we have R, R prime, and R2. And when you're doing the two moves, you can move it clockwise or counterclockwise. Same thing, whatever's best for you. L corresponds to the left side. So we have L, L prime, and L2. U corresponds to the upper side. So we have U, U prime, and U2. D corresponds to the side facing down. So we have D, D prime, and D2. F corresponds to the front side. So we have F, F prime, and F2, and B corresponds to the back side, so we have B, B prime, and B2. No matter which side is facing you, the notation is the same. So if green's facing me, green is F. If yellow's facing me, yellow is F. So the first step is to get the white cross. Notice how when it's done, all the edges align with the color of the centers. Very important to keep that in mind. Overall, this step is pretty intuitive to get, but you can just play around with things. So if you run into a situation where you have a piece on the bottom side, that's super easy. Just move it over right below where it needs to go. Here I have the white green, so it's right below where it needs to go. Just do a 2 move to bring it up. If you have a situation where a piece is on the side like this and it needs to move up, you can just do U prime, R, U. If it's on the other side, you can do U, L prime, U prime. So when you're done, it will look like this. The next step is to get the white corners. So what you're going to do is you're going to find any one of these corners. So I see the green and red corner. So I'm just going to move that using D moves below where it needs to go. So this is the red-green corner. It has to go here between red, green, and white. So what you're going to do is you're going to do this algorithm, R prime, D prime, R, D. And you're just going to repeat that until the piece is in the right place and turned correctly. So it's in the right place now, but it's not turned correctly, so I'm going to keep doing it. R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D. And it's done. Here I see another one. We have the blue-orange, so I'm going to move that below where it needs to go and do the algorithm again till it's done. If you have a piece that's in the right spot but twisted, like this one, you're just going to do the algorithm. Same thing. And let's finish it up and do the last one. And there we have it. Next, we're going to get the first 2 layers, which means that we're going to be putting in these 4 second layer edges. There are 2 possible algorithms for this step. So the first thing you're going to do is look for one of those edges on the top layer. So here I see the red-green edge. What I'm going to do is move that over until it matches with the center. So here we have red and red matching. So if I moved it over here, it wouldn't be matching, so we're going to have it over here. Now, here's how you're going to differentiate which alg you need to use. So we're going to think of the place where the piece needs to go as like the center, meaning this would be the left side and this would be the right side. So if it matches with the left side, you do the left side alg. If it matches on the right side, you do the right side alg. So in this case, it matches with the left side. So whichever side that matches, you hold that facing you. So if it matches on the left, you're going to do U, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, F prime, U, F. And if it matches on the right side, meaning that this is the place where it needs to go, this is to the left, this is to the right, here it's matching to the right, then you would hold that side facing you, and you would do U prime, L prime, U, L, U, F. U prime, F prime. So again, if it matches on the left side, hold that side facing you, do the left side alg, If it matches on the right side, hold that side facing you and do the right side alg. You may run into the case where the piece is in the right spot but flipped. In that case, what you're gonna do is you're gonna get that out of there by replacing it with any of these edges. It does not matter which one. You're just gonna do either one of the two algs for this step. It does not matter which one. That way, the piece will be out and then you can figure out how to get it in properly. And that is the first two layers. For the next step, we're going to be making a cross on yellow. There's only one alg for this step, and there's 3 possible different scenarios you can get. The first scenario is if you have a line like this. Hold it horizontally, and you're going to do F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime, and there's the cross. If you have a case where you have 2 adjacent cross edges in place, then what you're going to do is hold them in the back left like this, and you're going to do the same alg twice. That's once, that's twice, and there's our cross. And the third case is if you have no cross edges facing up, in which case you're just going to do the alg one time from any orientation, and then you're going to do a U2, which now puts it into the same scenario as the second case, and you're just going to do the algorithm twice like you would with the second case, and there's the cross. For the next step, we're going to align the top layer edges. So there's only one algorithm for this step, but there is a couple different cases that can occur. So the easiest one is you just find a place where only one of these edges is in the right spot. So here we have 2 in the right spot because they're aligning based on the center. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it to try to get it so only one's in the right spot, which we now have. So the blue's in the right spot, the rest of them aren't. So you're going to put the one that's correct, that's in the right spot facing you, and you're going to do R, U, R prime, U, R, U2, R prime. Oh, and everything is good. You may run into a case where you have one edge correct and you do the algorithm, but the edges still aren't all in place. In that case, what you're just going to do is just do the algorithm again, and there you go. If you have the case where 2 opposite edges are correct, then there's no possible way you can make it so only one is correct. So in that case, you're just going to do the algorithm from any orientation, which is now going to give you a case possible where you can make only one correct. So like, there, now I only have one correct, do the algorithm. Ooh, might need to do it one more time. And there we go, all the edges are correct. So to reiterate, the case I just did was the one where 2 opposite edges are correct. But if 2 adjacent edges are correct, then it will be possible to move the top layer so that only one's correct. So, let's see, we just move it like that. And now only one's correct, so just do the algorithm. Ooh, need to do it another time again. And there we go, now all the edges are correct. Next, we're going to get these corners in the correct spots. They don't necessarily have to be turned the correct way, but we're trying to get them in the correct spot. So this one right here is in the correct spot. That's all we want to do. It's not turned the correct way, but that'll be the next step. What you're going to do is, if you have one corner already in the right spot, like this one, you're going to hold it in the right like this, so like above your right thumb, like that, and you're going to do U, R, U prime, L prime, U, R prime, U prime, L, and then you're going to look to see if the other ones are in the right spot, and they're still not, which means you might have to do the alg again. And there we go, now they're all in the right spot. Some happen to be turned correctly, some still aren't, but they're all in the right spot. Now, if you run into a scenario like this where none of them are in the right spot, you're just going to do the algorithm from any orientation, doesn't matter. Now you're going to look to see if any are in the right spot, and now one's in the right spot, so hold that above my right thumb, do the algorithm, and there we go, they're all in the right spot. So for this final step, we are going to twist those corners and finish up the cube. So what you're going to do is find a corner that needs to be twisted and hold that above your right thumb like this. And what you're going to do is you're going to do that same algorithm from the second step again. So R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D. You're just going to keep doing it until this corner's in the right spot and twisted correctly. R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D. Now the corner's in the right spot, but the rest of the cube is messed up. Don't worry about it, that's fine. You're still doing everything correctly. Don't worry about any of the rest of the cube, just focus on the corners. So now what you're going to do is you're not going to rotate the cube. you will not rotate the cube at all during this step. Instead, you're going to turn the top layer, the U layer, so that a different corner that needs to be twisted is above your right thumb, and you're going to do the alg again. R prime, D prime, R, D, R prime, D prime, R, D. Oh, now that corner is twisted correctly, and the cube is solved. Now you just have to adjust the U layer to finish it up. This step can be kind of confusing, so I just want to do one more quick run through. So in this case, all the corners need to be twisted, so it doesn't really matter which one I start with, but I'm going to start with this one. Okay, now it's twisted correctly. Again, cube is kind of messed up, don't worry about it. Now I'm going to move the top layer so that a new corner is above my right thumb. Again, never rotate the cube during this step, only move the top layer. Do the algorithm again, that corner is correct. Move the top layer again, do the algorithm, corner's correct. Move the top layer again, do the algorithm. And now just finish up the U layer and we're done. Alright, so that is how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Now, for memorizing the algorithms, my biggest recommendation would be to just take a solved cube and just do the algorithms over and over just to try to get them in your muscle memory. So just take a solved cube, do the algs, just get used to doing them, and that's what's going to really help you memorize them. Now what you can do is do the algorithm a few times while looking at it, and then try to look away and see if you can keep doing it without looking at it. So that is really it for memorizing algorithms. Just take a couple minutes to just go over each of the algs a bunch of times and you're gonna memorize it no problem. So that is all for this tutorial. I really hope it was helpful. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!